when there are rain, when rain is coming, you will see the giant frogs coming from the sky and landing on the big mountains and resting there so that they can look around and see how the world is and to make sure everything is happening as they foretell from their Jedi Council, since you know that giant frogs are related to Yoda from the Star Wars films, and they come whenever there's fog. And fog is clouds that come down from the sky up really high. They come and they tell you what's up because they're too heavy to be up in the sky, so they come down and they say, man, I'm heavy like a fat cow and I'm ready to milk you guys. Not with milk, but with water, because that's what we got, because that the water is the three states of the ice, the frozen and the liquid form that you drink, and the gas, and it goes back up in the air, but then it gets too heavy and it goes back down from the clouds, and it rains on us to refresh us and to obey our thirst, to help us obey our thirst with Sprite. Who's in your corner now? You know it's Sprite, good to the last drop, folders in your cup. Here are some commercials, no spoil alerts, except for these are spoil alerts of my life. I'm telling you right now about what I thought, and I was about 5 years old or 7 years old in that ballpark. I wasn't 10 years old yet. And I was walking with my mother and my older sister, and they were talking, and that's what I thought they were talking about. All I heard was the word frog. I heard the word frog, so I swear they were telling me the truth, but they weren't talking to me. I'm pretty sure they weren't. I was just walking with them. We were on the side of the street, the highway, the Pacific Avenue in Forest Grove, Oregon, of the United States of America. That's right, United States of America is the country. Oregon is the state. I was born and raised in the state of Oregon, as a state above California. It's below Canada and below the state of Washington. California is above the country Mexico. In case you don't know, for all you Hispanics people out there, not to be racist, but I'm saying, hey, I just want you to know where Oregon is. That is it. I want you to know where Oregon is. I was born and raised in Forest Grove, which is a little city in Oregon near Portland. Portland is the biggest city in Oregon, and it's near the top, and it's a few hours from Seattle, and a few hours in the ocean. I lived a few hours in the ocean as well, and an hour from Portland, Oregon. We live in the metro area. We have TriMet buses that help us get from point A to point B. That's what buses do. And they call them the TriMet buses because it's tri-met. Tri means three. Met means metro, as in metropolis, as in the big city. That's what it means. That's what metropolis means. And I was born and raised in Forest Grove, a little city outside the big city of Portland, Oregon. I was born and raised there, and here I am. I was homeschooled with my mother. My mother helped me, along with a bunch of books and things like that, of that nature. Like TV, you have TV, you have educational programming on the television to an extent, and some TV channels more than others has more of the educational prospect, the educational things, especially OPB, as in PBS. PBS stands for Public Broadcasting Channel. PBS station, that's right, not channel. PBS, Public Broadcasting Station. Maybe it used to be a radio station. Why would it be called a station instead of a channel? I'm not exactly sure. Go find an encyclopedia, and maybe the answer will be in the encyclopedia, which my mom had a lot of encyclopedias, a lot of different versions of encyclopedias, a lot of different editions of encyclopedias in our house, and so we were able to read it and read other books too that would help us. Me and my three siblings, I had an older sister, an older brother, and a younger sister. We were all homeschooled to different lengths, for different times, for different periods. My older sister was homeschooled until like first grade. Then she went to the public school system, and did all that till like high school, and then she did college too. She did high school, and then later she did college. She did some high school. And then my older brother, he was homeschooled until the 5th grade. Then he didn't really want to study anymore, so my mom had to drag him to school, to the public school, which is in the next city. I lived and was born and raised in Forest Grove, and we had a middle school, which is like 5th and 6th grade, in the next city, which is like blocks away, like a few miles away. In the next city, which is Cornelius. Cornelius is a city near Forest Grove, and it's also near Hillsborough and Beaverton and Portland. So my brother started going to school in the 5th grade. He started going to public school in the 5th grade. And then my younger sister, she started going to public school. She was homeschooled, and then she went to the public school in 8th grade. But she was like a year or two ahead because she's smart, like my brother. My brother and my younger sister were the smartest in the family. Me and my older sister, not as much. And me and my older sister, we wear glasses. And when I was younger, I would hear things differently because I had problems with my ears. My ears are a little different than normal. But they're getting better, and I think they're pretty much normal now, but they weren't originally. And so when your ears cannot hear, they begin to hear things differently because they can't hear normally, so they hear not normally, so they hear different things than you would normally hear because it cannot hear as much as you. So it's like when you have the TV on, but it's not on loud enough, and you're in the other room, you think you overhear something. Or it's like the telephone game, and you pass around a message. The first person says hot potato, and says it to the next person, hot potato, hot potato, hot tomato, hot tomato, hot tomato, not potato, not potato, not. The message changes over time. The message may start out as the two words hot potato, but over time you don't hear hot anymore. You hear another word that rhymes with the word hot, like nut. So it's like hot. No, it's not. And then you don't hear the word potato. You might hear another word that sounds like the word potato in the telephone game, where you pass the message from person to person. You may think you hear the word potato, and that's the word it started out as, but then it turns into another word, like maybe not potato, but potato, tomato, and it's just like, instead of hot potato, hot potato, hot potato, hot potato, hot potato, and then people stop saying hot potato, they start saying something else, like not tomato. Is it not tomato? No, I said hot potato. I thought you said not tomato. No, I said hot potato. People mishear lyrics to their favorite songs as well, but I don't have any examples with me. But this is what happens when you don't hear correctly, and I did not hear correctly when I was growing up. So the first couple years of a baby's life, they try to learn tremendously. They try to learn how to talk a lot, and when they do that, they will learn most of it during their first years of life, the first years after they pop out of their mother's tummy. Or I mean, when the baby comes from the stork, because you know that babies pop out of eggs. If you don't believe that babies come out of mothers, they come from storks. The storks bring them, and they're in a little napkin, like a picnic napkin blanket thing. They come out of the blanket, and they have a diaper on them already because they're cartoons. And you know they're cartoons because that's how reality works, is from cartoons. We learn a lot of morality and things from cartoons. So you came from a stork, or you came from a baby. You pop out, in the first couple years of your life, you're trying to learn how things are. And you're told things too. You're told stories about how the world works, like, you know, oh, you come from a stork. And at the end of the year, Santa Claus comes and gives you presents unless you're bad, and you get a bag of coal. A bad bag of coal. You're gonna start misunderstanding me if I start talking really fast, and then you'll start thinking that you have some ear problems. So the first couple years of my life, I'm trying to learn how to talk, and I start learning correctly. No, incorrectly. Not correctly. Do not learn correctly. So I learned my own way of thinking and talking and living and playing, everything like that, because I couldn't learn how. I couldn't hear correctly, so it distorts and it changes things. You know that it changes things. And if you don't believe it, then go talk to some people that have problems like problems that I have. I have a bunch of problems. I'm messed up in the head, and my face is a little distorted because I have the Treacher-Collins syndrome. Go look it up. Starts with the letter T. The letter T as in toy. The letter T as in tick-tock. The clock. The letter T as in the letter after S. T. Treacher. I don't know if I'm saying the word Treacher right, but the word Collins, that's the last thing. I know a guy named Michael Collins. He is a speaker, a motivational, inspiring speaker with the Salvation Army. He's from Canada. And you should look him up on YouTube or Google or Facebook. You will find Michael Collins. He will inspire you to live a better life. Listen to what he has to say. His name is Michael, as in Michael Jordan, as in Michael Jackson. Very popular first name, Michael, as in Mike. We want to be like Mike. Oh, Mikey, he will eat anything. In the Life commercial, that's in the cereal commercial, there's a guy named Mikey from the 1980s or so, and Mikey would eat anything. Feed it to Mikey. Leave, not leave, but feed. Feed the cereal, the Life cereal to Mikey. He will eat anything. Mikey will eat anything. And we just want to be like Mike. We just want to be like Michael Jordan. And we want to sing like Michael Jackson. We want to sing and dance like Michael Jackson and play basketball like Michael Jordan. Michael Collins. His name is Michael Collins. As in Colin. As in you have colon cancer, except Michael Collins does not have colon cancer, but I had Treacher-Collins syndrome. The Treacher-Collins syndrome, go look it up. The Treacher-Collins syndrome distorts your face. It kind of makes your chin too small, I think. So maybe I have too small of a chin. It makes the top of your mouth, the roof of your mouth inside here, in here, the roof of the mouth, like too high. I think it might make your tongue too short. So your shortest, your tongue is shorter, and the top of your mouth is higher. Either both of those or just one of them. Probably just, if it has to be one of them, then it's probably just the roof of your mouth is higher than normal. And if it's both of them, then it's also that your tongue is shorter than normal. Is that normal? Never stick your tongue out in public. That's what people told me in public high school, because I was homeschooled until 9th grade, which I started 9th grade, public high school. I started 9th grade a year behind, a year late. Or you could blame it on my birthday, which you probably can't, because my birthday is on the 11th. That is the day after the 10th day of the month of February. I was born in the year 1985. The same year of the Back in the Future film where Marty McFly, played by Michael J. Fox, a Canadian, just like Michael Collins. Michael J. Fox is a Canadian from Canada, just like Michael J. Fox, just like Michael Collins. They both have the same name, Michael J. Fox, Michael Collins. And the disease I have, the syndrome I have, is the Treacher-Collins. Sounds like, and it's almost spelled like teacher, as in instructor, as in professor, a Treacher-Collins. So if it's not a Treacher-Collins syndrome, it's a Treacher-Collins syndrome. It kind of changes the way you look, your face, and it makes you look weird. So if you want to say that I look retarded, go ahead, I do not care. I care a little, but I can handle it because since I was little, people have called me weird and different and strange. My siblings called me an alien when I was younger. When I was like 4 years old, and I heard them talking about me and how they couldn't understand me because I couldn't hear correctly, so I was talking a little differently. And that changes the way you look and the way you act, and maybe not the way you look, but it changes the way you talk, and then the way people look at you, the way people perceive you is a little differently after that. And so people don't understand you. They don't understand you. And when they don't understand you, they start making fun of you. And they say there must be a reason why you are so differently. Oh, I got it. I know why. He's from another planet. Oh, he's from another planet. Yes, I think he's from another planet. Especially when he makes videos and he talks to himself. Oh man, yes, he talks to himself. Why does he talk to himself? I don't know. I think he's kind of strange like that. And he doesn't really have a mother and father figure that could guide him and mature him to maturity to make him really grow up to be a real person, like a real boy. He's just like Pinocchio stuck in a box, like a Matrix, like the hologram from Star Trek, and he doesn't really know who he really is. He doesn't really know, and he's just stuck in a box, and he's stuck in his own imagination, and he doesn't really care about anything else, and that's who he is, and that's who he always will be, and we'll never understand him. But is that really true? Is that really right? I don't exactly know, but this is what happens when you're not understood. Your ears will change who you are. Your ears are very important, and so is your mind too. Your mind is very important too. So for you kids out there, don't take drugs. So here I am. I'm a commercial. I'm an ad. I'm just an advertisement here. Give me all your money. Bang, bang, bang. All I want to do is bang, bang, bang and take your money. That's what I'm trying to say. But I can't say that forever because, I got places to go and people to do. No, people to do, no way. I don't know. Why did I say that? But I got places to go and people to see. That's right, not people to do, people to see. Unless if I want to, I don't know what to do with them or kill them or what do you do with people? What do you think? Tell me what you think about all of this. Tell me in the comments below. If you don't, I will have to come and get you. But then again, I probably won't because I'm in Vietnam and you might be in another country like in America. And if you're in America, you might understand some of the things that I'm talking about, like homeschooling, which I don't know if people really do homeschooling in other countries. Maybe they do, maybe they don't. Does homeschooling work? Is homeschooling better than public school? What do you think? Tell me in the comments below or email me at originaloatmeal@gmail.com. That's my email. You can email me at originaloatmeal@gmail.com. Originaloatmeal@gmail.com. Stop repeating yourself. We don't want to hear yourself. We have ears, unlike you did, or unlike you did, or unlike you still do. I have ears, and I can understand things now. As I got older, I started understanding things better, and I didn't have to worry. At one point, I really thought I was an alien because that's what my siblings said. My older brother and my older sister would call me an alien. Maybe they only said it one time. Maybe they said it a few times, but one time is enough to get inside somebody's head. And that's what it did. Those words got inside my head. It didn't exactly destroy me or hurt me. It may have hurt me for a second, or for 2 seconds, or for a moment in time when I was about 4 years old or so. I think I was 4 years old. I don't exactly know how old I was exactly. I know somewhere between 1 years old and about 7 years old or 8 years old or 9 years old. Definitely before I was 10 years old, they said it. And definitely before I was 6 years old or 5 years old. I think that's when they said, I'm a nerd. Or I'm kind of sounding like a nerd because I'm trying to be so exact on my dates and the years and the months and the seconds of everything. That's being very, what's that word? Exact, specific. And there are other words, but I can't really think of them at the moment because maybe there are problems with my head. So there used to be problems just with my ears and my head, and now my ears got better, but my head is still lacking, falling behind. No sound left behind. That's what the president, George W. Bush Jr., was trying to say, and trying to start a program that may or may not work to some extent depending on the state and the country. No, not the country, just the state, because we're just talking about America here. United States of America. U.S.A. 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 We're just talking about America here, but the different states are different. And so we have government in place and different senators and governors for different states. And we got about 50 states. Might have more if you count Canada and Mexico, if you're talking about the homeland thing. Homeland is code for North America. That's under the guidance of America and maybe the United Nations and Rockefeller family and other families who have been in power for the last couple hundred years. Things happen like that. You got banks who are seeking power over people and countries, and doing so through the means of starting wars and going after oil and things like that. And you may call me crazy for talking about those things, and I don't really care. You should look it up and think about that. And make sure your ears always work, or else your siblings and your brothers and sisters and your parents and your family might call you an alien as well, like they call me an alien. They might call me crazy. There are worse things in life than being this, a conspiracy theorist. A person who is in love with conspiracies. So not everything is conspiracies, but just to be politically correct for the moment right now, I'm using the word conspiracy. There are worse things than believing in conspiracies, and that is not having a mind and not having an ear to hear. I'm telling you in this video about what I overheard when I was little. When I was about 5 years old or so, I thought I heard my mother say that there's a giant frog that hops onto mountains, onto these hills, because there's mountains all around where I grew up in. I grew up in Forest Grove, Oregon. Look it up on the map. Google it. Google Maps it. You go to maps.google.com and you type in forest, as in like a forest, like woods, and then grow, like a grove. Forest, grow, comma, Oregon. And that should be all you need to do if you're already in America. In the map part, if you see America on the map, you gotta know what America looks like on the map, so I don't think I need to tell you. I can tell you what it's not. It's not South America. But it might be the same continent, because some people are taught in other countries, like not in America, in other countries, they're taught that North America and South America is all one continent, and that's why it's called the North and the South, because it's all one America. And that's why South America is not called Brazil. Brazil is a country in South America, but it's still one continent, supposedly because of the continental plates below. You should go back to school. If you don't know what the continental plates are, they have to do with the earthquakes and they're big land masses, they're big, plates of rock that are like miles or, lots of feet, lots of blocks, lots of miles below the surface of the earth. If you dig a hole before you get to China, as you're digging, you will run into the surface. Actually, your shovel will break first, and that will hurt. And actually, it'll be really hot down there too, because it's hotter down there. For some reason, it's just hotter down there. It's like a blanket. And that's the thing about, if you go up high, you think you'll get hotter because you'll be getting closer to the sun, but you don't exactly get hotter when you go up high, because you're leaving the atmosphere, and the atmosphere is like a blanket, a nice little warm, little fuzzy little blanket that goes over your body when you're tired, like when you're sleeping at night and you're in a warm little bed, unless if you're in Africa or in a poor little country, a third world country, where you don't really have blankets and beds, or you don't really have mattresses. You have a bed, but it's just made out of wood or metal and maybe thorns. Maybe not thorns. I'm making it sound worse than it really is, but you know that it sounds really bad, because it really is pretty bad. It's almost as bad as not having ears like I do. Here I am, spoiler alerts on the story of my life, but then we never really talk about spoiler alerts. We only talk about spoiler alerts when we're talking about movies, films and television series, shows, and other things, that can be spoiled. Like books can be spoiled. A lot of things can be spoiled. Movies can be spoiled. Multimedia things and video games can be spoiled. So many things can be spoiled if they're famous and popular, but not people's lives for some reason. Whatever it is, my mother used to say the word whatever when I would ask her questions, because I always ask questions because I was born curious and I was born not crying. As they say, I was born not crying. My mother says I was born not crying, or not crying that much. I think she said exactly that I was not crying at all. Not just that I was crying a little less than normal, but that I was not crying at all, not a tear in my eye. With crying is normal, so when I tell people that, they call me crazy, or they say, obviously that didn't really happen. You don't really know because you can't remember the day you were born. But I think I was able to remember the day I was born, or I have some memories of that, or maybe I just made it up in my head. One way or the other, I think I do know. I don't exactly know, but I feel like I do know because it seems real enough that I know about the day I was born and that I was not crying. At least my mother tells me I was not crying, and that tells you, what does that tell you? It tells me that I was curious. I was a curious little tripper. I was like Christopher Columbus. I'm like the next Christopher Columbus. And when I was 8 years old, I wanted to be the next Michael Jackson and dance and sing like him and let everybody know my talent. And I'm still working on my musical talent and try to be a better singer. And I try to sing and make videos and listen to myself and try to get better at singing better and making better songs. And I can play a little bit of guitar and a little bit of piano, and I can probably drum a beat on the drums, but not really. So this think that I know guitar and piano, but only a couple chords, a couple beats, a couple notes, a couple chords basically on guitar and piano, and that's it. And I can sing a little, and some people think I should go on American Idol, but not really. When I was 8 years old, I wanted to be the next Michael Jackson, and I also wanted to be a missionary and travel the world and tell people about Christ. That Christ can save your life, give you a new heart, put a little piece and fill in the little hole in the donut hole of your heart that's inside of you, because we're born not perfect, and so we need somebody who can save us, who can make us a little better and can help us guide our lives and to save us from our sins. Only a perfect person can do something that good and that powerful. And his name is Jesus Christ. And that's who he is. And I wanted to tell everybody about him. I wanted to inspire people. Basically have like a platform and then have wheels below it so that I could be mobile. Like a mobile phone, except this is before a mobile phone, because when I was 8 years old, we didn't really have mobile phones. Some people had mobile phones, like I think on the TV show Jerry Springer. No, Jerry Seinfeld. On Seinfeld, except it was Kramer. He had a cell phone, except it was really big. So everything was bigger. So the idea of mobile was less mobile back then because things were bigger, and even laptops were a lot fatter and heavier, like pounds. Laptops were like a couple pounds instead of less than that. And a couple pounds is not really that heavy, and it's a lot lighter than having like a big room like back from the 1970s when computers were the size of rooms, and that would be like thousands of pounds, like tons probably. You have machines that fill up the whole room, you press a bunch of buttons, and that's what computers were like. Less mobile, less movable. But I wanted to be movable when I was younger, so I can tell people what they want to hear. Not what they want to hear. What did I say that? What they need to hear, not what they want to hear. Help people become better, to help people become what they were meant to be, what they're born to be, what they were designed to be. I think life is better like that. And that's what I wanted, and that's what I started thinking about when I was 8 years old. I wanted to be a missionary who can help people wake up and to problem solve and to become better them, to become better people, to talk better, to reason better, to be better businessmen and better fathers and better friends and better workers and employees and employers and all those things in between and everything you can imagine in the world. I wanted to help, and I wanted to, live in a small house, possibly in a mountain, but I wanted to make money, somehow have a job, but then donate my money to missionaries, donate my money to anybody that would help spread the gospel and to help make things better, to give people food, drinking water, wells, maybe give my money to TBN, which is a TV station network, Christian network that's all around the world, that's trying to spread good things to people and help people, and even give dolls out to people that are sick in hospitals with cancer or with illnesses and sicknesses and diseases or broken arms or missing arms or whatever the disease might be, the sickness might be. People in hospitals, go to hospitals with Barbie dolls and G.I. Joes and toys, and tell them, God loves you, Jesus loves you, and I love you too. Whether you believe in him or not, whether you're atheist or not, there is a higher power, because we're not fake. We were not created by a product of evolution. There is a greater power, and there is a higher design. There's intelligent design in the universe. If you think about it, like, how do you make a wash, or how do you make something? It's really hard. It doesn't happen accidentally. There's always designs and designers, and there's builders and creators that make buildings, and they make robots, and they make computers, and they're always behind them, and it didn't happen through the product of evolution, except people still say that we are products of evolution, except we're more complex than robots and the most complicated computers and things like that out there. And so how is that possible? But people will still continue to say that, and you may be one of them, and I understand how you feel, and I can make more videos about this if you want me to, so leave a comment below, or email me, originaloatmeal@gmail.com. I'm Joey Arnold, and I want to hear what you think. If you want me to talk about this, we can talk about this, and we may talk about this, but not right now, because I'm not really talking about this right now. I'm just saying that, hey, these are the things I was thinking about since I was really little. Since I was 8 years old, I wanted to help other people, and I wanted to be a missionary, and I really wanted to help people, even though I couldn't really talk that well, because I was still in homeschool, and I still was learning how to talk better, and how to get better as a human being myself. And we had the yearly required state tests from the government, the federal government, or just the state government. I think it's just the state government. They required the people who do homeschool to go do these yearly annual tests. So if you are homeschooled, you go to these tests, and you have to go to a big city like Portland, Oregon. So you have to get in a bus or in a car. We didn't have a car, so we get in a bus. We get in the TriMet bus, and we go on the TriMet bus. We go on the bus for like an hour or two. We probably hop on another bus, and maybe hop on a couple different buses. The bus takes you here, and then you hop on another bus, and the bus takes you here, and then you hop on another bus, and eventually you get to, like, maybe not Portland, I think it was Oregon City. There's a city in Oregon called Oregon City, and you go there and go into this building, like a state building, a school building, where they test people, and they test you for a few hours, which for me as a little kid, like being 7 years old or 8 years old or 6 years old, it feels like all day. When you're a kid, when you're still in your childhood, when you're less than 10 years old, especially when you're younger than 10 years old, and even when you're still, younger than 20 years old or 15 years old, it still feels like a long time. The older you get, the better things get, but the younger you were, the longer things feel, and the worse things are, and it's just a lot harder and more complex, and it just feels like, oh man, it just bubbles up in your head, like, oh man, this is hard. They're testing me. Are they trying to screw with me? Are they trying to mess with me? What are they trying to do to me? What are they trying to do to me? Are they trying to, did I say that twice? What are they trying to do to me? Because I'm trying to emphasize how bad it is. Because people can scar you for life and abuse your life, whether they be your parents, or your friends or family, or your relatives, or the people at school, or people that are on the side of the street, like pedophiles, pacifiers, not pacifiers. I'm not talking about pacifiers that babies have when they're just sucking on something because they can't just suck on their mother all the time because they're growing up and they have to be weaned off their mother, that they have pacifiers, and it's kind of like, I'm a baby, this is what I do, and I need to do this until my teeth starts to develop, and then I can eat meat and real things like that, stronger, bigger things, but for now I just drink milk and I suck on a pacifier. I'm not talking about pacifiers, I'm talking about petrifiers. Just go fly a kite up in the highest light. No, that's a song from a movie like Mary Poppins. Let's go fly a kite up in the highest light. Let's go fly a kite and then we can go party. It's my party and I'll fly if I want to. No, I'll cry if I want to, cry if I want to, cry if I want to. You would too if it happened to you. That's from a movie with Macaulay Culkin. That's the guy who played the character in Home Alone, the Home Alone films, the Home Alone Lost at My House kind of thing, Home Alone, and Home Alone Lost in New York, the second film. Macaulay Culkin, he was in the Home Alone films. He was the guy that got lost at home and in New York. And he was in another movie where he's like a problem child. I think that's the name of the movie, Problem Child. And in that movie there's that song, it's my party and I'll cry if I want to, cry if I want to, cry if I want to. You would too if it happened to you. And that's basically an argument that basically says, like, you would do what I do if you were in a similar situation, which may or may not be true, depending on certain situations and details. You should think about that, but you shouldn't make too many excuses in life, like, oh, you don't understand, you're not in my shoes, kind of thing. But to some extent that is true, because you may look at me and not understand me, and I would basically scoff at you. Maybe not scoff, that might be the wrong word. I would basically just go, huh, or something, and say, you wouldn't understand because you've never been in my shoes, and you never, had a problem with your ears, and you couldn't talk well, and you didn't have your siblings call you an alien, and you weren't a couple years behind in everything in schooling and all of that until you started public high school when you were 15 years old, even though you're supposed to start school when you're 14. You started when you're 15. And you don't know how that feels, and you don't know how it feels to be in speech therapy when you're 8 and 9 and 10 years old, and also when you're in high school when you're like 15, 16, 17 years old. You don't know how that feels. And that's me. I'm Joey Arnold. That's what I'm saying to you. If you were to say, what's wrong with you? Why didn't you just go to school? Your mother didn't have to help you at all. My mother helped me a lot more than I realized, because my mother almost died before she gave birth to me. There were some problems I don't remember exactly what the problems were, but you can imagine, use your imagination, that sometimes mothers die giving birth to their kids, or before they give birth to their kids. There's complications and problems, or if they have too many kids at the same time, like a quadruplet, like 5 kids at the same time, or 20 kids at the same time, a lot of kids. Now, maybe not 20, I'm exaggerating, but for an emphasis of trying to say a lot, that's what I'm trying to say, a lot of kids, like too many kids. You can't have too many kids, because then your tummy explodes. Maybe it wouldn't explode, but you just like run out of air, or you run out of skin stressing ability, and then you wouldn't know what to do, and you feel really sad, and then you just feel sad all the time, and you're like, man, I feel sad, this is horrible, I don't know what to do, and then you die. But my mother did not give up on me, and that was really good. I was an explorer from the day I was born since I wasn't crying, and I really wanted to make the world a better place since I was 8 years old. And I must be an alien. I must have been an alien if I was an explorer, like an explorer from another planet where the Star Trek people would come and they would boldly go where no man has gone before to find Joey Arnold. And they would see me and they're like, oh man, oh, you're Joey Arnold, oh man, we've been waiting hundreds of years to find you. And after the first contact would happens like 2100, in like 100 years from the current time of this video that you're watching it, they go and they make first contact with aliens. But then years after that, you see people that you've seen before in the TV shows like Star Trek, the original TV show back in the 1960s, with Captain James Kirk and Spock. You see them, and then like 100 years after that, you see Captain Picard and Riker and Data and Geordi. And then you see Marty McFly in the Back to the Future film. They're flying around in their space, so except it's a car. It's a DeLorean. They're going back and forth in time, and you see them too, and you wonder, how does this fit? What squirrel's going on? What the buck is going on? Kind of thing. Am I related to I.H.S. James? I don't think so, because I.H.S. James doesn't have a beard. Am I related to Fred? No, your voice is not high enough. There's a lot of problems, a lot of questions in the world, and I am the kind of person that thinks all day and asks questions all day. And I started doing that even before I could talk correctly. And so I was born and raised with the ability not able to talk well. I had the ability of an inability to talk because I couldn't hear well. But early on they put hearing tubes, as in ear tubes, inside my ears. They would put something inside my ears that would open my ears and help me hear. They put it in my ears like before I was 1 year old or so. I was really young, and it was in my ears until I was about 10 years old. About 10 years old or so, I went back to the doctor, specifically the ear doctor in Beaverton, Oregon. Beaverton is a bigger city, closer to Portland than Forest Grove was. I was born and raised in Forest Grove. So we go to Beaverton, which is past Cornelius and Hillsborough, and we go on a bus, and so it takes like an hour or two to get there, depending on the traffic and the different buses that you go on. Like we go on bus 57 or maybe bus 58 at the time. That's the number of the bus, because the bus has different numbers because there's a bunch of different buses. There's like hundreds of buses, or maybe not 100, but more than 100 buses. And so each bus goes on a different route. And the bus that went by our house was bus 57, and it used to be 58, but not so much anymore. I think 58 is somewhere else now. That's kind of sad, but we probably only need one number, just one bus line. Bus 57. Oh, good old bus 57. Now I was born and raised in the house number, a trailer park, trailer number 163. And so I really, really like the number 163. And if you add it up, 6 plus 3 equals, what is it? 7, 8, 9, and then 1, that's 10. So 10 is a good number, but it's not 11. I was born in 11. I'm kind of obsessed with numerology to an extent, even though I don't really like numbers because I don't like math, and I didn't do so well with math in high school. I did some pre-algebra, and then I did some algebra, and I even was doing algebra 2. But I don't know how that relates to college level algebra and college level math. But it's not perfect. My mother helped me. So my mother was actually homeschooling me even while I was doing public high school. She was helping me. But as I was going through high school, she started helping me less because I guess I was getting smarter. So I grew up, and I was born and raised with hearing problems. I couldn't hear well, so I wasn't learning correctly, but I hear the hearing tubes, and the hearing tubes helped me hear, and then my ears started getting better naturally, or by the power of God, and by the help of my mother and other people and things. So they took out my hearing tubes. They took it out when I was like 10 years old or so, and then, I started learning how to talk correctly, better, after that. I continued, because I was already getting better before they took out the hearing tubes, and then I was getting better by myself, and that was good. And there was a lot of development that went beyond doctors' expectations, because I would go to the state test, the required state test, so that they can see if I'm learning anything at home, and if I'm not, then they can drag me away and make me go to school, and possibly make me go to foster care, as in be adopted, as in not see mommy and daddy anymore, as in move away from home and not see your brothers and sisters who call you an alien, but you still love them because they're family, they're blood, as in my uncle Jimmy Williams the Wolf always says, their blood, and blood is closer than anything you got up there, anything you got anywhere. I just made a reference to Little Mermaid, the Disney Little Mermaid. The seaweed is always greener in somebody else's lake, as in you think the grass is greener on the other side kind of thing. The seaweed is always greener in somebody else's lake. A lake in the bottom of the ocean, which I don't really think they really have lakes in the ocean, but I guess they do, because it is a cartoon based on mythology, the mythology of the Greek gods, because you have the king Triton, who is a Greek god, like Zeus and Kronos, and you got the other people too. They're the gods that the Greeks made up. The Greeks are people that live in Europe, in that general area by Rome, and I don't really know what happened to the Greeks, but they had their gods that they believed were real, or some of them thought they were real. And do you think they're real, or do you think my God is real? As in the Christian Judeo God. Leave the comments below. Tell me what you think. We could start a horrible debate about that. Except it wouldn't exactly be horrible, but some people would say, oh, it's horrible and it's not politically correct. Never mind that. You got those people. They're crazy, but they're not crazy. They're gods. And you got the story, a cartoon story based from that with King Triton, who is an underwater god in charge of the wind, not the wind, but just the water, the ocean, and the seven seas. Or how many seas are there? The different oceans. Believe the seven oceans. You got him. He's in charge of the oceans, of the seas. He's a man beast. He's a mermaid. He's a man-made. A man-made mermaid. Mermaid is a female mermaid, and a man-made is a male version of a mermaid. I think they call it a mermaid. No, they call it a man-made because it's not a mer, it's man. A man, not a mer. A mer is like a girl. I don't know why, but it's like mer, like my mother's name, Marilyn. My mother's name, Marilyn. Not to be confused with Maryland, which is a city, or actually a state, in the east coast of the United States of America. U.S.A., United States of America. The east coast, as in the east side of North America, as in the side with New York, New York City, the state New York, with the city called New York City, and Florida, and Washington, D.C., and Virginia, and Maine, and above America you have Quebec, which is a part of Canada, but they don't really want to be a part of Canada. You know what I mean? They just don't really want to be. Everybody's making trouble in their neighborhood, like the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air in the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air show that was on TV in the 1990s, starring Will Smith, who became a movie actor after that, and he was also a rap artist who was famous for his rap videos before his TV debut, his TV introduction, when he started being on TV in the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. You know what I'm trying to say? Trying to say people get famous for different things, but is being famous a good thing or a bad thing? Is it better just to be home alone like Macaulay Culkin in the Home Alone films and not let everybody mind your own business? Maybe you should make trouble in your neighborhood. Sometimes you do need to make trouble in your neighborhood when the going gets tough. The tough gets going, and you need to have a sit down like Rosa Parks in the back of the buses back in the 1950s or 1960s or so, about 50 or 60 years ago in American history, as in it actually happened, as in not just mythology like The Little Mermaid, which may be based on some truth, with some mythology and legend is based on some things that are true. Never mind that, because that's up for debate, because it depends on the story. Some things are true, some things are more true than others, and that's okay, as long as you can handle the truth, but you can't handle the truth. That's what the one guy said to Tom Cruise in one of the movies. You can't handle the truth. You want to bet I can't handle the truth? No, you can't. Not today. Not until after you take your medication. But a lot of doctors, they give their patients medications, but that may or may not kill them, depending on the situation. But in some situations, it's a bad, dire problem and situation that you don't want to be in. The circumstances are just over your head and over your body, and it's like an out-of-body experience that you don't really want to deal with, and you don't really want to see, because it's just too much to handle, and it's like, oh man, this just blows your mind out of the water. It just blows you out of the water like a pirate would blow somebody out of the water if they don't like them. It's just like a lawyer. A lawyer is like a pirate. A lawyer is like a modern day Pirate of the Caribbean, which I'm a big fan of. Jack Sparrow, played by Johnny Depp, who was also in The Lone Ranger recently. Jack Sparrow, played by Johnny Depp. Jack Sparrow is the captain. He's also a pirate captain. In other words, he's a captain pirate, or a pirate captain, which is cooler than a ninja. Actually not, because ninjas are faster and cooler, because the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles are a lot cooler than the Jack Sparrow, but then I like Jack Sparrow because of the way he talks, and he's funny, and he runs like a drunk, which is like my father, except cooler, because my father is just a hard worker, which I respect my father fully, and I think I have one of the coolest fathers in the world. Or I'm being biased for some reason. I'm being biased about my own father, because you would too, because that's usually what we do, because father knows best, and usually we refer to our family as the best, or the worst, depending on if you're Eminem or not. But life gets hard and life gets sticky, and when life gets sticky, you make peanut butter sandwiches out of them, and you make lemonade out of lemons. You have to do that sometimes, but it's really hard, but it doesn't really matter if you don't know what you're doing. Just stay with the flow and go with the flow and stay politically correct. No, I take that back. Don't stay politically correct and don't go with the flow. Go upstream. Be a good little fish. JWD. What's JWD? No, WWJD. What would Jesus do? What would Joey do? That's another question I've asked myself eventually, because sometimes it's not just about, oh, what would my Lord and Savior do? What would my Creator do? It's a good question to ask, but you also have to ask at the same time, what would you do? Because sometimes you can't remember what somebody else would do, which you should. If you believe in Christ and you want to follow Christ, you should read his Bible and get to know who he is and what he would do, and then you would be able to answer the question. You would be able to answer the question more clearly and definitely and precisely if you knew more about your best friend, if he was your best friend. If you don't care about him, that's okay. It's not really okay, but I'm going to say it's okay. That's okay, because we all have our different opinions. Even though Christ is not an opinion, you have the right to think he is. This is an opinion that is wrong, and that's what you may do. And I understand, and I know how you feel, even if you may say, you don't know how I feel, you're not in my shoes, and then I would say, you're not in my shoes either, you weren't born partly deaf, with hearing tubes, and with your siblings calling you alien, and doctors saying you'll never pass the 6th grade. Did I tell you that yet? I would go to the test, the annual test, and in 1 year They saw the results. I was like 6 or 7 years old, but the results of my tests were like entrance to kindergarten level, like as if I was 3 or 4 years old, kind of thing. Like I was a couple of years behind, like 3 or 4 years behind, 3 or 4 years behind, which is not a lot of years, but then the first few years of your life, it kind of is a lot of years because you kind of don't want to lose those years because you only have a few years of your childhood to catch up and to become the man or woman that you need to be, kind of thing. And you only have a few years and to have it your way, kind of thing. To have it your way. What is that, McDonald's? But it's not just McDonald's, it's also your soul and your life that we're talking about. And we only have so much of that to go by. We only have so much water in the ocean that we can drink until we figure out that we need more of it. We need to drink more water, so we need to call Captain Planet and say, Captain Planet, you're our hero. You're going to take the criminals back to zero. And you're going to give us more drinking water. And we need more drinking water for the people in Africa and other poor little third world countries. Because drinking water is the key to your mind. Because there are worse problems than this, the ability to hear. Or not the ability to hear is what I'm trying to say. Because that's the problem I had. I had a problem hearing that kind of affected the way I grew up and the way I was learning things. But I was okay because I still had a mind. But if I didn't have proper and efficient nutrition, like water, then maybe my mind would go crazy and then they would have to take me to the loony bin and I'll be stuck in the loony bin for years and years to come. Oh man, and then I wouldn't know what to do and I wouldn't know what to say, because I'd be like the Joker from the Batman movies, and I'd be like, you know how I got this smile here? Let me show you. Let me take a knife and show you, kind of thing. Or I'd be like the Riddler, he's another bad guy in the Batman universe, kind of thing. And when I say universe, it's like it's separate from our universe, since he's a story like the Greek gods, kind of thing. Separate, like a parallel universe, kind of thing. Like if you ever seen the Friends, it's a TV show where it deals with some of the crazy things about that. When I say crazy, I mean crazy in a good way because I like it, and I think it's bizarre and out of this world, like an alien, since I was born and raised thinking I was an alien. And so my bunk bed that I slept in was a spaceship. That's what I would say, and I would say that to my brother at least. I don't know if I said that to the rest of the family. I probably did at different points, but what would they know? Because all they would hear is, I'm an alien, it's a spaceship, but I want to sing it, I'm an alien, but I want to sing it, but I want to sing Princess Eve, I'm an alien, no baba. You know what I'm saying? It's like, how is people supposed to understand me when I was younger? But the older I got, the more understandable I get, and that's one of the goals I have in my own personal life, is to get more understandable, to become more understandable. I want to become more understandable, and so I try to become more understandable. I try to pronunciate better, try to enunciate better, maybe try to learn a little bit of Spanish in high school for like 2 years, and that kind of helped a little. Like, I learned a little bit of Spanish, like hola. Hola, ¿cómo estás? Bien, gracias. Voy a el baño. Voy a quiero Taco Bell. Yeah, I want to go to Taco Bell. I was trying to say hola as in I go. You know, hola as in hello. Adios as in goodbye, as in something to do with God, like until we meet again, God bless you, kind of thing, or something like that. That's what adios means. But basically, it means goodbye at the same time, if you know what I mean. Maybe you don't know what I mean, but it doesn't really matter. All you can see in my face is a beard, and that is imperfection. And as humans, we fight against imperfection. We hate imperfection. We want to get better at things, and we don't want imperfection to clog our arteries like our burgers do. That's what our burgers are for, not are imperfection. But then again, burgers are imperfection. If it goes inside of us, then it becomes a part of who we are, and the imperfection of the burger becomes our own imperfection. Which, if we were perfect, we're not perfect anymore because of the burger. Because the burger should be fine, it should be perfect. For some reason, it clogs arteries, or maybe it doesn't actually clog arteries, but something else does, like the fat inside of it, or having too much of it, or something else related or associated with the burger from McDonald's, or this McDonald's, or maybe other restaurants too, or maybe not so much other restaurants, because other restaurants might be more healthier than that, but the fast food restaurant chains like Burger King and McDonald's are definitely more not so healthy, or at least they say that, or that's what they want you to believe, but nonetheless, it's probably true to some extent, or different extents, depending on the burger and depending on the cow, and whether or not the cow has mad cow disease. Maybe that's the case, or maybe not the case, but sometimes it is the race, depending on what race you are in. Whether you're like a white person, or a black person, or a brown person, you have different human races, if you know what I mean. But that is a can of worms that is a lot to swallow. With King Triton would probably swallow it himself, but he is a god underwater that doesn't even breathe, which I thought maybe all gods would need to breathe, but maybe not him, because he's a Greek god and he's a story, and different stories can have different remedies and different problems and different solutions and different realities, which would separate them from the real reality of the real world, unless if you believe that the Greek gods are real, and then maybe people stop believing in them, like they stop believing in Tinkerbell and what do you call it? Fairy tales. No, what do you call it? What's Tinkerbell? He's a fairy tale. No, fairy tale. He's a fairy. That's right, that's a fairy. I should have stopped with the word fairy. I was thinking the word fairy tale because I'm still thinking about the Greek gods, like the Little Mermaid and Zeus, and the other Greek gods like Cronus, and I'm just repeating the names that I can think of from the top of my head, but that's about all the different names I can think of for the moment. And maybe people stop believing in the Greek gods, like they stop believing in the fairies. If you say there is no such thing as a fairy somewhere falls over dead. You know, they start choking by Darth Vader. Darth Vader is the main criminal in Star Wars, except he's not really a criminal because he's a good guy. He starts out in the prequels, the first three films, The Phantom Menace, and The Attack of the Clones, and The Revenge of the Sith. Those are the first three Star Wars films that were recorded and made not first. They were made later. The last three movies were made originally from 1976 to 1983. We got the original Star Wars and The Empire Strikes Back and The Return of the Jedi. Those are the last three, the fourth and fifth and sixth films of the Star Wars saga. And the seventh Star Wars film is coming in the year 1925. No, we're way past the 1900s. I need to get out of my time capsule, my little frozen little cube that I was in with Austin Powers. Yeah, baby, yeah. Some people say I look kind of like Austin Powers and Jack Sparrow. Not Jack Sparrow. I never looked like Jack Sparrow. Nobody ever compared me to Jack Sparrow, but I did. I compared myself to Jack Sparrow. But, however, some people compared me to Austin Powers, including the one time when I was actually in jail for a couple days for something I didn't actually do. It had something to do with my stepmother. Not really my stepmother, but the girlfriend of my father. She was mad at me, and she called the cops on me, and they threw me in jail because the girl's always right kind of thing, and I was there for a little while, but then I had to plead guilty of abusing her, even though I didn't actually abuse her. But I was in jail, and some people are like, oh, you look like Austin Powers, and I was like, oh man, wow, I look like Austin Powers. And in high school, some people actually referred to me as Harry Potter, and like, oh man, you have long black hair like Harry Potter, and you have glasses, you must be Harry Potter. You must have a magic wand and a broom, and you must be like a witch or a warlock, and you must be related to King Arthur, or at least the guy that King Arthur talked to. You know, King Arthur talked to a wizard, like a great white wizard. The great white wizard, you know, from the Lord of the Rings. There was a great white wizard, and there was the other wizard, and there was actually another third wizard that you will see, spoiler alert, see in The Hobbit, the first Hobbit film. Not to be confused with the second or third film that's still going to come out, and I'm kind of struck about that. Stroke? No, stoke. I'm kind of excited about that. But I think I would have a stroke and a heart attack about that too, maybe. Like a little girl would when they go to see Justin Bieber. Girls get really excited more about Justin Bieber than Justin Timberlake, and I don't really know why. Justin Bieber is more popular, and I heard somebody talk about him. I just called Justin Bieber a beaver, a girl. Bieber, Bieber is a Muppet. Bieber is a girl. No, Bieber is a singer, a musical singer. So I apologize to all the families associated to Justin Bieber. And Justin Bieber is himself. I don't mean to make fun of you. But then again, you probably don't really care. Maybe you do. But one time you referred to a picture and you said to the little girl in the picture, "Oh, thank you for coming to my concert, and I hope you had a good time." But the picture actually came from a Holocaust survivor. At least that's what I heard somewhere in a video or TV somewhere. That's what he did. That he didn't really know the picture, black and white picture, came from just a picture from the 1900s, the early 1920s, 1930s, whenever the Holocaust was, the 1930s, 1940s. You with Hitler? Man, Hitler. I did a book report about a book. No, I did a book report about Adolf Hitler when I was about 15 years old. I was in 9th grade. I was doing about him. I was doing him. No, I was doing him in a bed. No, I wasn't doing him. But I was doing a report about him and trying to figure out who he is as a person and who he was before he was a killer, before he was a criminal mastermind of all these different Jews and other people. And he was actually partly Jew or partly Hungarian. But he was upset because in his teenage years he wanted to be an artist, but then nobody really liked his art, and then his parents were kind of mean to him, and they would like ground him or something, and then he would sneak out of his house, and he would go to the art museum, and he would try to do his art thing and try to draw and try to get people to like his art, and he may or may not have a girlfriend in his teen years. And I remember reading something about a girl, but I can't remember how that related to the story of Adolf Hitler. But Hitler was there, and he was not happy. He wanted to be an artist. Nobody liked his art, so he went to politics. Oh man, the evils of politics. People will always say, "Oh man, I don't want to talk about politics," and I always try to tell them, man, everything is affected with politics, and everything's interconnected with politics. And then people call me crazy, and they don't understand what that means. And I say, politics is the way that we live life and how we regulate life, how we go about regulating life and living life and making the rules that guide our lives. And life is everything in our lives is life, and even the cereal that is called life, and you have different brands of cereal, and one of them just so happen to be called life, and it makes you think about life because the word life, and life makes you think about life. And so here we have life, and life is pretty tough and serious. And Adolf Hitler was trying to live his life, and he was a difficult person. And I'm not here to try to justify the things he did, but I'm just trying to tell you, step into his shoes and try to figure out where he was before you start thinking about where he went. Where he was, where he went, where he ended up, kind of thing. This is still bad, and I understand he's a really bad person. He started out as an upset little teenager that wanted to be like an artist, but then nobody really cared about his art. Maybe his art sucked, or like maybe people look at me right now and I could do the same thing, and I could draw pictures and people like, I don't like your pictures, and I can like sing songs and be like, oh, I don't like your song, and I can maybe do some movie, film reviews and television reviews and video game reviews, and I could do all these different reviews and make different videos and talk about different things, and people to be like, oh man, you talk too fast, or you talk too slow, and I can't really understand what you're saying, you suck. And then I'm like, okay, I'm going to politics, and then I'm going to kill people. Then they're like, oh, maybe, okay, we take these words back, and we know what I want to ever say these words to you again. Never ever would I ever say these games. You ever play the game? Never have I ever. Never have I ever. Have you ever played that game? The game is a really cool game where you say something like something you never ever have, and the people in the circle, your friends and family, or whoever's playing, your enemies. And they're around in circle with you, and they'll raise their fingers or their hands, probably just their fingers, and they'll raise it one time if they've done something that you have not done. Like, never have I ever been to the moon, and you've been to the moon, so you raise your finger. It's like, oh, and then they go and they get to say something. Maybe you'll raise your finger because you've done something that they've never done, kind of thing. That's what the game's all about. And then it gets all around the circle. It goes around the circle, and it goes back to you, and then you get the chance to stump them again, to Donald Trump them again. You get an opportunity to Trump them again, to Donald Trump them, to kamikaze them, to punk them again, to, yeah, Ashton Kutcher punk them again, to Donald Trump them again. Oh man. And you get to say something else, and then if they've done it, they raise their second finger and then third, and it keeps them going around in circles like a merry-go-round. Ring around the rosy, ashes full of posies, ashes, we all fall down. That song is based on something true in history. You would have to look it up to try to figure out what it's based on, but some nursery rhymes are based on true things. Like I was saying earlier, some legends and myths and stories are true to different extents, and they're based on different things, like based on a true story kind of thing. And so different legends and nursery rhymes will tell you bits and pieces of real actual history, and you should look into it, because history will doom to repeat itself if you don't know history and you don't educate yourself. So education is the real key to the future, and that's why my mother homeschooled me. Back to the story of my life, that's why my mother homeschooled me, to try to help me until I was old enough to go to public school and do it myself. And Adolf Hitler, he was educated to some extent, and he wanted to be an artist, and then he went into politics, and then he was trying to be a leader, and he wanted to take over the world, and he wanted the survival of the fittest, because he believed in evolution instead of creationism and higher design, intelligent design. Like I believe in intelligent design, not to say that, oh, you either believe in one thing or the other. It's probably not that simple. With, I would say it is that simple, and some extent it is that simple, and sometimes it is, and it can be, but oftentimes it's not. And unfortunately, it's not that easy and simple to either believe in one thing or the other thing. But Adolf Hitler believed in Darwinism. Darwinism. He wrote a book. He went to like an island, and he saw different species, and so he wrote a book about the origin of species in 1856 or so. And he started talking about the mutations, except they were just mutations, but not exactly evolutionary evolutions. They were mutations, and there are fundamental differences between mutations and evolutions, and we can start making science videos about the differences, and you guys can leave hate mail to me, originaloatmeal@gmail.com, or you can leave comments below and unlike this video instead of like this video, and tell me how much you hate creationism and intelligent design, and how much you love evolution, and tell me how the difference is not really a difference with the difference between evolution and mutation, but I tell you there is fundamental differences. However, Darwinism, he wasn't exactly sure at first, but he was researching it, and then in his deathbed he recanted some of the things he believed from his own religion, his own science. I call it a religion, but you may call it a science of Darwinism. And in his deathbed, in the deathbed of Darwin, Charles Darwin, he recants some of the things, and he leans towards God and Christ, the Savior and Creator of the universe, of us all. He kind of leans that direction. I don't know how close he gets, but he kind of leans towards that direction, and he kind of sees the errors in some of the things that he taught and believed, and Darwin started seeing that. He started seeing the lies for what it is, and that's kind of what we need to do in life. If we go after education and pursue the truth, oh, you can't handle the truth, but I think you can, because the truth is out there. Says the X-Files. Have you ever seen that TV show on Fox? The X-Files. There's the quote, a quote from that show, It says the truth is out there. You know the truth is out there. Are there aliens on other planets? I'm not exactly sure. But I know the truth is out there, and you can handle the truth. You can't handle the truth. Oh, yes, you can handle the truth. And don't ever tell people they can't handle the truth. And don't let people make you think you can't handle the truth. Because you can handle the truth. You definitely can handle the truth, and the truth is out there. And you know the truth is out there. And Darwin started seeing the truth, but Hitler did not. And Hitler was like 100 years later, or less than 100 years later, but he was definitely in the next century. Charles Darwin was more in the 1800s, that century. And that century is the, what do you call that century? The 19th century. The 19th century is from 1800 to 1900. So you have Darwin in the 1800s, and you have Hitler more in the 1900s, as in the 20th century. And Hitler was upset and sad about his life, about how his parents treated him, and how people didn't like his art, and so he went into politics, and then he started being a leader, and he started ruling the people of Germany. Eventually he started leading the people of Germany. Somehow, some way, he started doing that, even though he wasn't totally German. He was probably part German, but he was also Hungarian and or Jew, as in, from Israel. And then he came up with the idea from Darwinism, from evolution, that some people are stronger and better and smarter than other people, like how you see some of the black athletes in basketball and other sports. You see them and they jump higher and fly higher and run faster, like in running in the Olympics. And you see them as better people, or more athletic, and so you come up with the idea of some people are more athletic, or you see somebody with a bigger head and you say, oh, they must have a bigger brain inside them, so they must be smarter. And that was a belief too back 100 and 200 years ago. Around that time, people would say things like that bigger heads, bigger brains mean being smarter, being better, kind of thing. That's kind of what people would say. And they would also drain blood out of people when they were really sick. Back in the 1700s and 1800s, they were still doing it. Like, they would say, you have bad blood, so you need to get rid of the blood. What? What are germs? What are viruses? We don't know what those are. What are bacteria? Or bad bacteria? Bad bacteria is usually germs. Good bacteria are germs, technically germs, but not really germs, so they're bacteria, so they're good. But they didn't really know what those things are, those little animals are, those little microscopic one cell or a couple cell organisms. So they would just drain the blood, drain it all, just drain it all, just take it all down to the drain. And that would sometimes kill people. Maybe it would kind of cure people temporarily to some extent, but it's still like pseudoscience. I don't know if that's the right phrase or slogan. I don't know. Is it pseudoscience? Or leave me the comments. Leave me comments, please, if I got that wrong, or if I got anything wrong, or if you think I got something wrong, even if it's not actually wrong. But if you think it's wrong, it's nice to know anyways. And I'm not here to mock you. I'm here to listen and to read comments all day long. I would love to do it, but I don't think it would happen. Prove me wrong. Reverse psychology. Try to tell me what's up. Because I don't have any comments in my other videos, and I actually don't have any views, so I don't think anybody knows that I'm actually making these. But that's okay. I'm going to make them anyway. If you make them, they will come. If you build it, they will come, kind of thing. Otherwise, history is doomed to repeat itself. You don't learn from history, so I'm here to tell you a little about history. So maybe you'll learn some history that you never really learned before, and you'll just like open your mind like a Pop-Tart out of a toaster. It just pops up, and you'll see things that you've never seen before, and you're like, oh man, there's a revelation here. A revelation that I've never seen before. Like, oh man, I thought Hitler was totally evil, pure, like a hellboy from hell, from the pits of hell himself, from hell itself, himself, Satan himself. Oh my goodness, I thought he was horrible. I thought he was just a tater tot, a big tater tot, a big wiener, a big, oh my, Justin Bieber wiener. Oh man, I thought he was just so bad and so evil and so like a spitter, microphone abuser that's a microphone abuser. I don't know how you abuse a microphone, but some people probably do, like they try to have sex with animals and ghosts. That's what I learned from a famous actor. No, he's not an actor. He's just a guy on YouTube. Ray William Johnson. That's what he always taught me. Why are you making all these references to all these other videos? Because that's the only way I can live life. Without these references, I just get destroyed. I get troubled by the facts and mundane, ordinary status quo of everything else. In other words, I become history. But not the good kind of history that you read in a book, but the kind of history that nobody reads kind of thing. And I don't really want to become history. And I don't want to be a ripoff either. Like the Battletoads is a ripoff of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. And the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles are definitely ninjas that are cooler than the pirates. And typically, pirates are fat drunks. Unless if you're Johnny Depp and then you're a cool acrobato ninja. So believe it or not, I believe Johnny Depp is actually a ninja. And a lot cooler than anything you'll ever see from legends and myths and Greek gods and ideas and the Power Rangers. No, maybe not the Power Rangers. The Power Rangers are pretty cool. And not even as cool as Mortal Kombat. So Jack Sparrow is probably not the best, but I will still watch his movies because he's pretty magical. Maybe not as magical as a Disney cartoon where you see in Lion Kings and you look at the clouds and it spells out sex just to try to get the kids to grow up and buy some condoms and have some sex. Maybe they do, maybe they don't. But did Disney ruin your childhood? Maybe they did, maybe they didn't. Maybe they did to an extent. Leave me the comments below to tell me what you think about Disney and how they did. Did they do worse than the Warner Brothers? The Warner Brothers have the like Tiny Toons and the Looney Bins and the Looney Tunes, and they have different things like the Animaniacs, and you know, they make some dark movies that are darker than normal because it's just like the lighting, the lens flares of Joss Whedon. No, Joss Whedon was never a part of Warner Brothers, was he? I don't really know. Tell me, I don't really know. But yeah, all these people, and they do all these different things, and they try to justify why they do it. Darwin tried to justify what he did by saying, I think this is right, that we're all products of evolution. But then when he got older, he started changing his mind about it a little. You should read about that. If you don't believe me, don't take my word for it. That's what LeVar Burton always says in his movies. No, in his TV show, The Reading Rainbow. He would try to get kids to read books. Because education is the key to a future for the children. And the children is definitely our future. So he would try to get people to read. He would try to get kids to read. So don't take my word for it. Here are some books, and you can try to read the books. And this is Reading Rainbow. The Reading Rainbow. I can go anywhere. Just take a look. It's in a book. Reading Rainbow. Reading Rainbow. And that same actor who stars in the TV show The Reading Rainbow is also in the Star Trek The Next Generation TV show and the different movies they made after that, like Generation, Star Trek Generations, and Star Trek First Contact, and Star Trek Insurrection, Star Trek Nemesis, and there may be other movies. And is there a ghost behind me? Do you see the curtain? Where's my finger? Curtain right there. It was moving. That curtain was moving. I see dead people. I'm scared. Oh no, what's going to happen? You see all these different movies to try to make people scared, to try to brainwash people. That's what movies and media tries to do. Books will try to brainwash you. Presidents like Barack Obama will try to brainwash you. No offense against Barack Obama, who was probably born in another country, since he didn't really have a birth certificate, since he didn't really produce it right away. No offense against Barack Obama, but now you're feeling the hate. And you're like, hey, what's up, player hater? Why are you hating Barack Obama? I love Barack Obama. I love the way he talks, I love the way he is, kind of to some extent. I love the way he presents himself, and he's on different TV shows, and late night TV shows like Jimmy Fallon and Jay Leno, and maybe even the other guy who used to be, who's that guy, Conan, who used to be on NBC, but then they had a feud, and they kind of screwed him over, and that's alright, because then he was able to go to CBS. I think it's CBS. It's a cable channel. And Obama is able to handle himself and wear a tie and look professional and looks really well, and he talks really well, and he looks really great, and that's exactly what you want. And you look at that and you be like, man, he's a great guy, and I love him, and I respect him, and I look up to him. He's my role model for the next 200 years, even though I'm not going to live that long, because I'm not the bicentennial man, which is a movie about a robot who becomes a man, like a real boy. The robot becomes Pinocchio, who becomes a real boy, played by the actor Robin Williams. And it's a pretty scary, sad movie, mostly sad, but kind of interesting, kind of entertaining at the beginning, but then he just gets older and older, and he gets wrinkles, and he wants to have real parts in his body, and then he eventually has to die because he can't live forever. And that's what happens. Legacies end. Things end. But then things don't always exactly end. The Greek gods did, because the people stopped believing in them, unless if they're not really real, which I don't really think they're real at all to begin with. But you may say they're real and they stop believing in them, like you stop believing in a fairy and the fairy falls over dead. You know a fairy from Peter Pan. That's what Peter Pan said. Peter Pan said, if you say there's no such thing as a fairy will die. And to live is a lawfully big adventure. No, to die is an awfully big adventure. I'm Peter Pan. And I'm the inspiration behind Michael Jackson. Michael Jackson didn't want to grow up, and he just wanted to make music and to dance and sing like nothing else, and I want to be just like Michael Jackson when I was 8 years old. That was around the same time I was believing in frogs instead of fog, because I thought my mother said the word frog, but she really said the word fog. And that's what this video is all about. I'm spending an hour and a half just to tell you one little story. And that is, one day I was walking down the street with my mother and older sister, and my mother said, oh, look at the fog. But I thought she said, look at the frog. And this is what the story is. One little story with a bunch of fluff in the middle, where I talk about how Adolf Hitler was kind of a good guy because he was an artist, but nobody liked it. Nobody liked his art, so he went to politics. His parents didn't really like him, so his parents kind of sucked, but maybe not, I don't really know, because I never really met his parents. But Adolf Hitler had parents, but history won't tell you a lot about his parents. They will just tell you about how he was horrible, but he believed in the survival of the fittest, and so he needed to irradiate. He needed to get rid of the lesser people, the people that are not as strong, which so happened to be the Jews. And his point of view was not really a bad thing. In his point of view, if you look at things from his eyes, from his shoes, try to see things from that perspective, you will see that he wasn't totally a horrible person, but then he became a horrible person. I'm not here to justify him. I still hate him as a brother and as a human. I think he's a horrible person, like other political leaders, like Barack Obama. No, I mean, did I say him? I don't know. We could talk about Barack Obama another time. He kind of is the same, but kind of is different, depending on how you look at it. Yeah, I know Barack Obama is doing some pretty horrible things, whether you like it or not. Kind of like the evolution debate. You may believe in evolution, and you may like Barack Obama. I, however, see things differently because of the facts that are out there that you may fail to see or fail to want to see, and you may deny. And then you have Osama bin Laden. And when did Osama bin Laden die exactly? Don't exactly know. Maybe the big giant frog came and ate him up one day. that little frog from my little fairy tales I used to believe in, because I overheard my mother say frog, but she really said fog because I couldn't really hear correctly, and that's when I started talking about my ears and how I had hearing tubes in my ears until I was about 10 years old, and then I also had speech therapy when I was around 9 years old too for a little while, and I also started being in Bible clubs like Awanas and Word of Life Olympians, and I started learning verses, and that helps with your mind and your ears, and memorizing things, and also memorizing God's words, because God's word is a lamp unto your feet and a light unto your path. If you hide it in your heart, you may not sin against thee. In other words, you may live life better and to the fullest, and to the good of the last drop, and the good of Americans everywhere. God bless America, and God bless the United States of America, kind of thing. That good moral stories can help a person, and that's what Bible verses are. They're more than that too, because they actually talk about real history of things that happened a long time ago, including the time of Christ coming to earth. Christ is God, but he comes to earth. Only God can save us, because humans will mess things up, because that's what we are. We're not perfect, and we need Christ, because Christ is perfect. If we were perfect, then we would create some kind of paradox where we would be able to have some competition against God, and we would fight God and try to kill God, because we'd be just as strong as God. So we're not as strong as God, and if you're not as strong as God, you're not perfect, because only God is perfect, and anything less, even just an ounce less, is not perfect. And when you're not perfect, you can't go to heaven unless if you believe in Christ, because Christ came to earth to die for you, to give you new life. You believe that he died on the cross to take away your sins, because only he can take away your sins, and that's what he did. God is fully man and fully God at the same time, and he came to earth and he saved us somehow, some way he did, whether you like it or not, whether you believe it or not. That's what happens, and he's coming again to take his children back to heaven, and to bring about the tribulation that will hurt bad people, and other people, they will start believing in him. They will follow him, and then they will be able to go to heaven too eventually. But there'll be like this 7-year tribulation, and possibly more than that, because there may be some years in between the rapture and the tribulation. The rapture is the point where Christ comes in the sky, and the Christians who believe in him and follow him, they will fly up into the air somehow, whether that be just their spirit or also their bodies. I don't exactly know, but they zap up in a twinkle of an eye at the last trumpet. They just come up in the air, and they come and they hang out with God, who is Christ at the same time. The Trinity, 3 people in one. God the Father, God the Son, and God the Holy Spirit. It's 3 but 1 kind of thing. And it's like the Matrix. It's like some kind of paradox kind of thing that you don't really understand. You're like, how is that possible? I think you believe in 3 gods. No, I believe in one God who's expressed in 3 different ways, and seen in 3 different ways, in 3 different locations, even though God is actually everywhere, because he's all-night present. All-night means all, and present means everywhere, as in the presence, as in present, as in everywhere. Why do they call it today? Because today is the present, unlike yesterday and tomorrow. You should live in the present. That's why they call it a gift. Or do they call it a gift? I don't really know. This is a quote I heard from the old ninja master in the Kung Fu Panda movie. That's right. We got Kung Fu Pandas, and we have giant frogs that hop onto mountains once a year to hang out with you brothers and sisters, to see if everything's going on, and if everything is not, then they go back to the council, the High Council, the High Jedi Council, the Star Wars universe, to tell them, hey, there's trouble in the neighborhood. Rita Repulsa is a Star Wars. No. Lord of the Rings, no. Power Rangers. Rita Repulsa is a warlock, wizard, in the Power Rangers TV show and the 2 movies that they made. Which the Power Rangers originate from something in Star Wars. No, from Japan. Something in Japan or China, Asia, where they have these Ninja Power Rangers. So basically, Power Rangers is a ripoff of that. Or is this an American version of that? So you have me biting my tongue like this. I do that sometimes. One of these days I'm gonna bite so hard and the blood will come out, and then I'll need a real wizard to come heal me. So I'd be like Zelda, or I'd be like Link. Link is a guy with a sword, and I would walk into a town and I would find a wizard, and I'd be like, I need some healing potions. I've been walking for days killing goblins and ghosts and goblins, and oh my goodness, goblins from Spider-Man. That's another quote from my uncle, Jim Williams. He would talk about goblins, and he was saying that to his grandson, Tyler, who is the son of his son, Nathan. Now I thought it was really funny because we were on the beach at the time in 2002 when that was said, something about goblins, from my uncle, who was talking about goblins. And Goblin is the name of a character, a bad guy, in Spider-Man. It's pretty scary when you have green blood, and especially when you're not sick, because then the doctors would be like, is there something wrong with you? The Goblin would be like, no, this is how I am, I was born this way. Baby, I was born that way. Hit me, bake me, try to shake me. Baby, I was born this way. But were you really born that way? You're just trying to say that. Huh? Lady Gaga? You want me to gag you, silly? Gag you up to the left? Gag you to the right? All your things you need is in a box to the left. That's what Beyonce always says. All your things in a box to the left. I left your woman at the airport and I don't need you ever again. You're just a little lady in the hood and I don't want you. Little Red Riding Hood, you sir are looking good. You're everything, big bad wolf go on. Waroo, Cookie Crunch. Cookie Crunch, that's the name of it, like some cookies that they started making like in the 1980s and 1990s, and I would see the commercials on TV, and I would see the little animals, the little cartoon animals, and they would run after the cookie crunches, the little Cookie Crunch cereal. Is it cereal? And they may have made some cereal out of it, but it started out just as Cookie Crunch cookies, and you just eating, you crunch, 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 and you say Cookie Crunch, kind of like saying, Little Bad Riding Hood, you sure are looking good, and you go, Roo, because you're a wolf, and not a Worf. Worf is the character in Star Trek The Next Generation. His name's Worf. But I'm talking about a wolf, which is like a dog. Like a bloody little dog. Which, don't ever call a girl a dog, which one time I did. But I was trying to say like a puppy, but I used the word dog. And this was in New York City. No, not New York City, but it was in Pottersfield. Pottersfield is a really small city. It was just like 5 hours from New York City. And it's actually closer to Albany. And Albany, I think, is the capital of New York City for some reason, even though it's not the biggest city. New York City is the biggest city of New York State. And you know New York State is in U.S.A. near the top, on the East Coast. That's where it is. I was in Pottersfield for 2 years at a college, a Bible college. A Word of Life Bible college, which I went to a Word of Life clubs, Bible clubs. You go to a church when I was a little kid, starting when I was about 6 years old or so, and all the way until I was like 13, 14 years old, and then I went and I did the youth group clubs, the Word of Life youth group clubs, too, all the way through high school, and then I went to their college for 2 years after high school. Some Word of Life missionaries helped me with getting a plane ticket so I could fly from Oregon on the west coast all the way to the east coast to New York and go to college. So I was there. That's where I was. And I was happy about it. As I get older, I get a little more happier. I get a little more happier because I can talk a little better, think a little better, think a little more clear. Even when the going gets tough and people are starting making trouble in their neighborhood, I try to think clearly. And I don't care who's making trouble in their neighborhood. It might be Rita Repulsa of the Power Rangers. It could be other people like You have Ivan Ooze, who's another criminal badass from the Power Rangers as well. And you have the really bad people from the Mortal Kombat, especially the, I can't remember his name, but you know who I'm talking about if you know Mortal Kombat, and they come and they basically say, hey, we're gonna win these tournaments, these yearly or generation tournaments, where the immortal people fight the mortal people, and if the immortal people win, they get to take over the Earth realm. With, I don't think it's a fair fight. So I'd say to them, pick on somebody your own size, because you guys are immortals, and the mortal people in the Mortal Kombat are mortal. They can only do so much. You know they can only do so much. They're mortal people. That's okay. The moral of the story, and in conclusion of this broadcast here of almost 2 hours, I'm here to say, hey, if your ears don't work, you will hear things that are not correct. But that's okay, because eventually you can grow out of it and grow up and get better in life like I did. Unless if you think I'm still a mess in life and I'm not productive in civilizations of the world and that I should just kill myself. If you think I should just kill myself, leave a comment below and tell me that I made a mess in my life. For the rest of you guys, if you think that maybe I am doing a little bit better and that people can understand me because I'm learning how to talk correctly, and learning how to talk a little better in pronunciating and enunciating some words, then hey, leave me a comment below and tell me good work with your life, and thank the gods, or the gods. That's what they always say in that one TV show, Spartacus. Thank the gods that they helped, the different Greek gods or the different Roman gods or whatever different gods out there, or the three Trinity gods, the Father, Son, and the Holy Spirit kind of thing, even though that's actually one, so it's not gods with an S at the end, it's only God, capital G, and not non-capital G as in lowercase g, not lowercase g, but capital G, God. I believe G-O-D, not lowercase gods. But that's what they say. They say, thank the gods that you're better and doing better. And if you think I'm doing better, leave a comment below and say, oh, good boy. Oh man, I remember back when you were mentally challenged, mentally retarded, when you couldn't say a word and you were picking your nose all the time, eating peanut butter and jelly sandwiches when you were 6 years old, and then you started eating spaghetti. No, you were eating spaghetti when you were 6 years old, and then you started eating peanut butter and jelly sandwiches when you were 7 years old, and then you started making your own oatmeal meals by yourself in the pots, and then putting them in the bowls all by yourself when you were 8 years old, and you started becoming the oatmeal boy when you're about 9, or actually 10 years old, 11 years old, when you're the father of Bill and Janet Bailey started calling you Oatmeal boy. And then you went to high school, but then they just called you Cool Kid and Ghetto Joe, and then you went to college, you went to the Bible college in New York, and then they started seeing you eat oatmeal every single day, and then they started calling you Oatmeal. Or maybe they didn't, but you made it your own email address, oatmealjoey at yahoo.com. That's not my email anymore, so don't email me there. But you made that your own email. You made your own nickname, Oatmeal Joey, and then people started calling you Oatmeal. Oh man, your life is so productive. Your life is enhancing itself. It's elevating, escalating, elevator. It's going up an elevator, and hopefully not off a cliff. It's getting better. It's going places. You don't have things in your ears anymore. You know how to talk. You're learning how to listen to people. You're learning how to open your mind to different things, having more of an open mind for things more, and you're being more open and thoughtful and understanding and things like that. And oh man, I'm so proud of you. You know that frogs are not actually fogs, and fog is just a cloud. A fog is just a cloud, it's not a frog, and so you're understanding things better, and you're learning how to listen more, and maybe you'll make more videos that aren't so freaking long about one little story of your life, because we want to hear about all the different things that has happened in your life. So please make more videos, Joey Arnold, please make more videos. I know you're the original Oatmeal now. You call yourself the original Oatmeal, Joseph Scott Arnold, born born February 11, 1985. Oh man, what you gonna do? Please, you know what The Rock is cooking. Please make more music videos. No, make more not music videos because you don't really know how to sing that well. Or maybe you just work on it, and once you get better, then upload them. But then I know you want everybody to feedback you and to, give you some kind of loop of criticism, as in constructive criticism, so that you can get better as a person. You learn how to sing better. Maybe you should just actually get some professional help because you're kind of crazy. So maybe you should just go somewhere and maybe these professional people can help you how to sing, or maybe they'll just totally deter you from singing because they know that you can't have any future in singing, even though when you were 8 years old you wanted to be a professional singer like Michael J. Fox. No, Michael Jackson. Michael J. Fox is not a singer. He has that disease that makes him shake. What do you call that? The disease? Parkinson. The Parkinson disease. Something like Parker, like parking your car. You park your car in a parkway, and park your car in a carway or a driveway. You drive your car in a parkway and park your car in a driveway. What in the world? Let me say that again. It's not about the size of the dog in the fight, but the size of the fight in the dog. That's what Michael J. Fox says. No, Michael Jackson. No, Michael Jordan. Michael Jordan said it's not about the size of the dog in the fight, but about the size of the dog. No, the size of the fight in the dog. Michael Fox. No, Michael Jordan. See, maybe there is stuff that's still wrong with my head. Michael Jordan says it's not about the size of the dog in the fight, but about the size of the fight in the dog. That really matters because the will to survive in a dog or in a person is what determines the outcome of a competition, of a fight, especially in a basketball competition, because that's what he knew the most of, because that's what he did the most of, because he's Michael Jordan and he's the #1 all-around American basketball player that we know of, or at least that's what we say, and that's what we believe, and that's what I believe, that I want to be like Mike, and a lot of people still do. So he would know, father would know best, Michael Jordan would know best. I still want to say Fox or Jackson, but we're talking about Michael Jordan, and he knows about the size of the dog in the fight, but he knows the size of the fight is better, because the size of the fight is what was inside of him. Even when he played against people that are bigger than him, he could just jump over them because he believed, and he wanted to show people that he believed, and he wanted other people to believe in the Air Jordan of his shoes that he needs to sell a bunch of, and in his Hanes underwear that he needs to sell a bunch of. But it's not just about Hollywood making money selling stuff. It's also about good stories. Stop touching your nose. 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 It's also about good stories. He knows good stories are out there. And Michael Jordan is a good story that can inspire and encourage people to go beyond their limits. And that's what I did in my life, basically. Now, I may not be an inspiration to you, but I can be an inspiration to myself. Because I'm good enough, I'm smart enough, and God's kind of people like me. I'm vegetable and I'm mineral, and no, are you vegetable, or are you mineral, or are you animal? I'm animal, hardcore to the last drop, you know that I am. I'm good enough, I'm smart enough, and God's kind of people like me. That's a quote from a famous inspirational talk show host guy who lives only in the world of Saturday Night Live in the early 1990s. One day, one Saturday night, Michael Jordan was on Saturday Night Live. It might have been his last time he was actually on the show. He should come back and be on the show again. Maybe he has, I don't really know, but he was on the show back in the early 1990s. Back when he didn't retire the first time when his father died or was murdered and he went to play baseball. Before he did baseball, before his father died, before his father was murdered, Michael Jordan was on Saturday Night Live, and he was there. And he didn't say the quote of the size of the dog in the fight doesn't matter compared to the size of the fight in the dog. The size of the fight in the dog is more important than the size of the dog in the fight. That's more important. Michael Jordan said that. Michael Jordan did say that, but he was also on Saturday Night Live, and he was there on this show, this pretend show on Saturday Night Live. He was in this skit, in other words, and the one guy was trying to encourage him, but then he started crying, and he's like, oh no, they're gonna fire me, and this is horrible, because I can't inspire Michael Jordan. And Michael Jordan says, hey, I wasn't feeling bad to begin with. I am fine. And you should look at yourself and say these things to yourself, because this guy was trying to make Michael Jordan say, hey, repeat after me, say what I say, say this, say, I'm good enough, I'm smart enough, and gosh darn it, people like me, people love me. And Michael Jordan said it. He said, I'm Michael Jordan, I'm smart enough, I'm fast enough, and gosh darn it, people like me. And and the announcer guy, the host of the show, the pretend show, the skit, he's like, oh man, okay, yeah, but I don't know. And somehow he's still sad, and Michael Jordan's like, you need to say that to yourself. You need the self-affirmation. You need the self-affirmation yourself, and just have a hug yourself, hug a tree, hug yourself again. Have some self-affirmation, self-love kind of thing. Please do it for yourself. I know you can do it. Joey said it. And the host said it to himself. He looked in the mirror and said, I'm smart enough. I'm fast enough. I'm cool enough. I'm white enough. I'm not black like Michael Jordan. I'm cool enough. I'm smart enough. And gosh darn it, people like me. People like me. People really like me. People love me. Oh, look what I can do. This is from Mad TV, which was in competition with Saturday Night Live. The Mad TV show was in competition with the Saturday Night Live TV show, which was on the same time, like 11 p.m. at night, Saturday nights, every Saturday night. Some Saturday nights they just do reruns. Reruns is something that people didn't really know of because they didn't really have reruns originally on TV until like the 1960s or so. Then they started having reruns, and people were like, what are reruns? Michael J. Fox went back in time, back in the future, and he's like, oh man, I saw this on a rerun. And the people are like, this is brand new. This is on the air, live right now. How in the world do you know that? Who are you? Are you Darth Vader? And Michael J. Fox actually makes reference to Darth Vader in the movie when he talks to his own father, which is kind of ironic since Darth Vader has a father too. No, Darth Vader didn't have a father. Darth Vader was born in the will of the Force, but Darth Vader had a father. No, he had a son named Michael J. Fox. No, his name was Luke Skywalker. So Darth Vader said, I am your father, and Marty McFly said, I am your father to his own father. No, maybe he didn't say father, but he said something, I don't know what he said, but he definitely made a reference to Darth Vader. And that's what happens in life. We make references. Either we have an excuse like, oh, I have hearing tubes in my ears, and I have problems with my ears, so I think a frog is a frog. That's what I did when I was a kid, and that's what this video is all about. If you don't know what this video is about, I can tell you right now. What is this video all about? This video is about me mishearing one word. The word frog is really the word fog. The fog goes over the mountain. Not a giant frog who is related to Kermit the Frog and Yoda in Star Wars with the Jedi High Council to spy on the world. Like, oh no, phone home, stop spying on the world. This video is about fog, and not the F word. I did not say the F word. I did not say fuzz either. Like, fudge it. Fuzz. I like fuzz. Fuzz is pretty good. It's like with chocolate in it. Really good. But it's not about that. This video is about when I misheard that word fog, and I thought they were talking about giant frogs on mountains, and I got scared, and I was looking out the mountain, and I was like, man, is there really a frog on this mountain? And are we walking towards it? We're actually walking towards Mart or Safeway. From my house, from the ghetto that I was born and raised in, Forest Grove, Oregon, of the United States of America. I was born in a ghetto, a so-called ghetto, not a real ghetto, but a pretend ghetto of a trailer park called the Rose Grove Mobile Home Park. I was born there. I was not born there. I'm kidding. I was born in a hospital near there, a couple blocks away in the Tualatin Valley Hospital or Maple Syrup Hospital. I think I was born in the Maple Syrup Hospital, full of maple syrup. That's why I'm so sweet, because I'm full of maple syrup. I was born and raised in the Maple Syrup Hospital. That was where I was born and raised, and you can come see me in the zoo, because that's where I'm going to be from now on, in the zoo, because I can't really make it in society because I'm made of maple syrup, and I was actually featured in the board game Toys and Ladders, Chutes and Ladders, no, Candyland. I was also on Apples to Apples. Every single red and green card I was on. It's also on Risk. I was the general and the president in every single known city in the globe, on the map of the world, in the Risk board game where you try to take over the world. You start out in the corner in Australia, because that's the safest place to start, and then you roll your rice. You roll your rice. No, you roll your dice, and you start winning over other games. Look up Risk if you don't know this board game. You don't know the rules. You don't know what I'm talking about, and you'd be like, what are you talking about? You try to take over the whole world in the board game Risk. In the game Risk, you try to take over the world. You roll dice, and you have men like pieces. You have all these soldiers. You move them from country to country, to city, and so every city you go to, you see my face, and you see me, and you're like, oh man, it's gonna be a risk, because Joey Arnold lives there. He's just taking over the world because he looks like Austin Powers in Harry Potter, and he wants to be like Skak Sparrow, and he wants to be like Michael J. Fox and Michael Jackson and Michael Jordan all at the same time. He wants to be every single Michael. He just wants to be like Michael Collins and Michael Kurtz, and he just wants it to hurt. He just, no pain, no gain kind of thing. He just wants to take over every single name of, he doesn't want to be Joey anymore. He doesn't like the name Joseph, or, Joseph with the technical colored dream coat from the Bible where he had the dreams and he let the people free. But that was Moses a couple hundred years later. Joseph helped the people go to Egypt because there was a famine in the land. But then Moses helped those same people a couple hundred years later to leave and go back to the promised land. So it's like, oh man, I'm against that, because I was named after that Joseph, who did that many hundred years ago. And the other Joseph, who was the father, not the real father, but the earthly father of Jesus, which reminds me of Superman, who also had an earthly father, who was not Russell Crowe. Russell Crowe was his real father. Spoiler alert, if you don't know, Superman and the Man of Steel, the different things that happen, doesn't really matter. You know that the good guy wins at the end of the movie. Even if you haven't seen the movie, that's not a spoiler alert. If it is a spoiler alert, then I'm sorry, you got a spoiler alert. You're spoiled. I'm sorry, but I already said spoiler alert, in case you were wondering. You're spoiled, like spoiled eggs, which I really don't like spoiled eggs. But Superman in the movie, his father, his real father, is played by Russell Crowe. Russell Crowe is like a bird, like Big Bird, but a real bird, like an iceberg. Like Titanic was going too fast, and the captain had 23 years of experience or so, but he knew what he was doing. But he knew where he was, and he knew that there was icebergs there, but he did not slow down, and people told him to slow down for hours and hours, like the last 10 hours, or I don't know how many hours, but a lot of hours is people knew, and people told him to slow down. He was going too fast, and it was in the middle of the night, and he had 20 years of experience. He's been a captain for 23 years, and in that area too, he's been a captain. In that general area, with the icebergs, and he went, and then it started crashing. Things started going down. Titanic started going down, and in life, things will go down. In history and in your own life, things will fall apart, and you'll feel horrible. And whether it's your fault or not, whether you had the 20 years of experience as a captain, like Jack Sparrow, or another captain or ninja, like the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, you may have the experience, it may not, it may be your fault, it may not be your fault, but it doesn't matter, because in the end, the boat will go down and will sink, and you will go down to the ship, because the captain always goes down to the ship. And I said, if you don't believe in that kind of tradition, then you don't have to go down with the boat. You can be a captain, you don't have to go down with the boat if you don't want to, because that's your right. You can run away like a cow. Run away like a coward and go to Canada, because that's what some people do when they don't want to fight in a war or something. They just run away and they go to another country and they say, F with nationality. F with patriotism. You know, down with the hood. I'm going to make trouble in another neighborhood, another city. I'm the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, except I'm not really so much fresh anymore because I'm spoiled. Because I just got spoiled by Joey Arnold, so I'm just tired of that. So, get out of my face. I don't want to see this anymore. I don't want to watch this video anymore. Why are you still talking? Wait a minute, why am I still watching this video? You really don't want to watch this video anymore. You can stop talking. No, you can stop watching. Stop, go on to something else, because it's not like I'm going to say something so creative and so bizarre that you'll be like, oh man, my life is better now. My life is better now because I just watched this Joey Arnold video and I just became a better person. Because, man, the way he talks, the speed he talks, it's like the speed of lighting. It's like the speed of Superman. The speed of Superman. I think he's on drugs. I think he's on speed himself. I think it's time for him to take a bath and go somewhere. Joey Arnold, stop making videos. Go do something yourself. I think you've been staring at the smoke too much. The smoke of Los Angeles. I think you've been looking at the clouds and the fog too much. It's been fogging your mind for too long. It's been, oh man, I think, what have you been smoking? Whatever you've been smoking, it's been pretty, I think you've been smoking the frog. You've been licking the frogs, and then licking the fog. Licking the frogs and fog, because they're almost the same. The smoke is fog. The fog is clouds. It's the smoke that comes from marijuana. Mary Jane. How do you know about Mary Jane? Oh, Mary Jane used to live in my neighborhood. He was pretty tight. No, you call Mary Jane a guy. How dare you? Her dog is going to come get you. He is a dog. Don't ever call a girl a dog. No, her father, who is a dog, by the way, just like the dog found in Peter Pan. No. You know, Peter Pan, yeah, there was a dog, but the dog was a nanny. Not a dad, but a nanny like some girl. You know, nanny like Mary Poppins. Life is tough, you know? Life is tough like that. You know, no pain, no gain, but what are you going to do? When it's all the same, you won't really know what's at the bottom of the rainbow, and you won't know if the grass is greener on the other side, unless if you go look. You have to go look. You have to go look for the other side. So go there and see what is there. Go see what is there. And maybe you'll find out that, hey, I was taking drugs the whole time. You shouldn't have been listening to me. Because, man, I've been taking Mary Jane, marijuana. And the fog from that has been coming out of the pipe and out of the end of the cigarette butt. And going into my eyes, into my head, and contaminating my head to make my life a deadbeat reality. Like my father always says, you're a deadbeat, and I can do that in a heartbeat, kind of thing. And maybe I've been licking the frogs too, because maybe there were really giant frogs in the mountains, and I would walk all the way to the frogs and lick them, and the frog would be like, oh, and how does that feel? You really like that? Lick me harder. And I'd be like, okay, this is not good. You should not say that. I need to go. Frog, you're not real. I'm not Billy Madison. I don't need to take the 3rd grade again. I'm not seeing walking crazy penguins. I'm just seeing frogs, but I actually didn't really see the frogs. So thank you for watching another edition of the story of Joey Arnold, the life of Joey Arnold. Thank you for watching the life of Joey Arnold. Until next time, Eat your educational cereal with educational letters. Make sure you eat them. Don't take drugs. And come back so you can learn more about the life of Joey Arnold, the original Oatmeal. Thank you for stopping by. Please leave comments. Tell me, what do you want to know about my life? And I may tell you about everything about my life, and I may spend 2 hours each video just to say a little bit about my life and to say, hey, this is the things that have happened in my life. I was molested when I was 5 years old, which actually I wasn't molested when I was 5 years old. That didn't actually happen, so erase that from your memory. Here's a boom, here's a boom, here's a pen from the Men in Black. And here's my beard. You'll never see it again. I'll get rid of it. I'll try to look like a real boy, like Pinocchio. Pinocchio's not a real boy. Pinocchio should have been a real boy, and he was a real boy at the end of the movie. So see you later on the pep side. Make some videos. Leave me some comments. Tell me what you think. Because if you don't tell me what you think, I will just think what I want.